Do you have intrusive thoughts? I used to have intrusive thoughts, but not anymore. Let me explain. So I had two different kinds. I had violent and sexual ones. The sexual ones came in when I was probably a teenager, as a result of the abuse I endured, but also the teachings of the cult that I was in that sexualized everything, even though you weren't actually allowed to talk about healthy sex. So whenever I would be in conversation with a guy or alone with a guy, I would start getting these anxious thoughts like, oh no, they're going to abuse me, or oh no, they're going, like, what if we just started kissing right now, or at any moment that I could do something inappropriate and cause them to lust after me. It would just cause these like hyper-vigilant sexual thoughts into my head, and I thought, I'm just a really bad person. I'm just a horrible, horrible person. You read that verse that says the heart is desperately wicked, and I thought that was just me being desperately wicked. And then the second kind of thought was violent, and that came in after I gave birth to my son Arrow. Shortly after his birth, I started just imagining these horrible scenarios wherein he would get hurt, and I would prepare for the what I would need to do if that happened. Like, for instance, I remember vividly standing at the counter chopping up vegetables with a butcher knife, and my son was all the way on the other side of the kitchen, and I thought, I'm gonna drop this knife right on his head, and it's just gonna like lodge itself in his brain, and I'm gonna have to take him to the hospital. And I know from Grey's Anatomy that I'm not supposed to remove it, so I'll leave it in. And like, anxiety makes you feel like if you can just prepare for every single scenario, no matter how unlikely, you'll be okay. That eventually you'll reach a point where you've prepared for everything, you have a contingency plan for your contingency plans, and that if you could just have all those plans in place, that then you'll be able to relax. But you never actually reach that point. And it's a lie, because you can't actually plan for everything. And even if you could, the plan's not going to go according to the plan. So, after I had my first deliverance on the bathroom floor at my sister's house, very shortly after, I realized the sexual thoughts just gone. With my sister's husband, Reagan, he had been there during my deliverance, and I just felt this love for him, like this sisterly love for the first time for another guy outside of my family that I can't explain. It was just so rich and powerful and pure. It was very pure love. It was just definitely from the Holy Spirit. And I hugged him and I was like, I love you. I looked him straight in the eyes and said, I love you. I can say that now. Wow. Like, I had never been able to look somebody in the eyes that was outside of my family and say, I love you in that way before. And it was so beautiful. And the violent thoughts, that took a minute to realize they were gone, because I didn't even notice they were gone. It was like they had never been there. And I started realizing that when my kids would be in a situation where normally I would be freaking out and like, oh, be careful, and like, oh, maybe I should kind of prohibit them from exploring or being more creative because I was so scared they were going to hurt themselves, I realized, like, I don't do that anymore. I'm not imagining these horrible scenarios. Another form of intrusive thought, I guess, would have been where I would plan my husband's funeral often if I didn't know where he was, or if he was super late, or whatever it was. Like, my brain would just start going. I don't know how many times I wrote his eulogy in my head, or imagined exactly what would happen to me after he died. Like, oh, would I cry at the funeral? Would I just be numb? How will I feel? Will I even be able to get out of bed for weeks? Will I have to take care of the boys? Like, just on and on, these horrible, anxious thoughts. And I haven't thought that once. Every time I would say goodbye to my husband, I would think, this could be the last time. Make sure you say I love you as the last words. Or, make sure that you kiss him. Like, as he was driving away, I would think, you're gonna think of this moment years from, maybe later today and be like, why didn't I treasure that moment more? It was just this horrible urgency that just constantly hounded me. And now it's completely gone. My husband just went on a trip this weekend to do his guard duty. And that didn't even occur to me as he was pulling out of the driveway. This is the last time you'll ever see him. Make sure you say I love you. There was no fear. So, if you have intrusive thoughts, consider deliverance. It just might be the key to your healing.